And then they go on to talk about the Vikings. Let's talk about the, y'all want to talk about the Vikings? Going to the Vikings. We know a lot of the Vikings stories have been kind of altered as of recently to make them fit the European narrative, but a lot of the Vikings, they were a dark complected people. And look, right here in this book, they have a little, this guy, okay, it says another poignant reminder of the Viking colonization of an inhospitable Greenland. This carved ivory head depicting a stern-faced Norseman was done by an unknown Inuit artist. Now, you're gonna look at this picture, this is not looking like that TV show, The Vikings. Y'all can see this brother. Look at this guy here. Does he look like the Vikings that they show you on TV? This is an actual carving that the Inuits did, the indigenous people up there in Greenland. So that's a Viking. But if y'all saw the picture, I mean, he looked like somebody's, like a brother I hadn't seen before at the liquor store or something. Yeah, and they said this ivory that they did the carving with is from Africa. Stuff's not adding up. Give me 1 second. And I remember I had a conversation with a teacher before, and she said she went on vacation to the Netherlands, wherever the Vikings are from. I'm sorry, my brain's not working right now. But she went there and she talked with the native people who, heard tales about the Vikings and stuff growing up. And they said, the Vikings were Americans. They were indigenous Americans. Just waiting for some people to join. Let's see. Hello. Alright, anybody have any questions? I was going to talk about the mysteries of ancient America. Oh, thank you, Michael. Hi, Jovi. So I have this book that I got. I think I got it at a library sale. It's like $1. So it's called, it's backwards, let me see. I don't think you can see it. But it's called The Mysteries of Ancient America. Let's see, I don't know, who is this? Mayans? Hi, Janice. Yeah, so I was just gonna go through here and show you guys some of the things that I found. Some interesting things. Like this book is from, let me see what it's from. What date? 1986. So before some of y'all were born. What did you say, Brian? I should record on YouTube. Well, I'm just doing live, trying to get used to it before I do YouTube or something like that. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. What'd you say, Jovi? I mentioned earlier Africans coming here on spiritual journeys. In the book, I think it does talk about Cahokia and the mounds, but it doesn't talk about the actual spiritual journeys that the people had here. Cahokia was, for North America, it was like our capital. Cahokia was the capital during ancient times, and people will come from all around, like all the chiefs, we call emperors or kings, will come there and they have a big powwow, peaceful meeting. They would discuss all the issues that everyone has, and sometimes, you know, people would, I guess, stop some wars. What'd you say, Andrew? The Grand Canyon. I don't know about Grand Canyon artifacts. I heard about that too. I can't answer that. But back to Cahokia, like I said, it was the capital. So like once a year, or probably biannual, they would all come, like all the leaders would come together, male or female, because we had a lot of female leaders here too. And they would just discuss things, like if there's wars, they'll try to come up with ways to end the war. They would write constitutions, you know, ratify bills or whatever laws that they had, that they wanted to put out. And they partied. People partied. People got married in different tribes. They would marry, you know, people from different tribes, because I wouldn't say ancient, indigenous Americans had a thing with incest. It was taboo, so everyone tried to be as far away as possible to anyone who could possibly be a relative, like a cousin. So someone would marry, like the woman will marry a man from another tribe and bring him into the tribe, and he'll become part of the tribe. So that's how they also got their numbers up for the groups, you know, different tribes. And they also, you know, those were like peace. They made peace with the other tribe, because, hey, you're not going to come ransack another tribe. If your cousin is married to someone in that tribe, you're not going to go kill everybody off, you know, because they might get shot with an arrow in the crossfire. But yeah, so Cahokia was our meeting place. And he said, sound like like the Bilderbergers. It was like the Bilderbergers. Yeah, so they partied, they got married, they had laws, and I guess caught up on news, because they didn't, you know, all the news in the ancient world was by foot. Like, people send messages by foot. Someone would come into town with some news or gossip. That's the only way that I know. I don't know if they had some secret technology that we don't know about, but that's the only way I know that they communicated. And we also had hundreds of highways running through North, South America, and the islands had their own little pathways and stuff. But the highways that we have now were the ancient highways. All they did was pave over top of them. The turnpikes, the highways, everything, all they did was just pave over top of them. Like in Virginia and on the East Coast, we have Route 1, which is like a little mini highway. Route 1 was one of the major Indian trails in ancient times, up until, I guess, mid-colonial to the end of colonial times. Native, you know, indigenous people controlled all those highways. But then, you know, at the colonialism, the Europeans took over those trails, and they used them to work with their Indian hunters to trade slaves and trade other goods up and down Route 1. Hi, Belinda. Yeah, so our highways were the Indian trails, so it's the same thing. And then, let me see, back to, let me look in this book. Oh, and then also, when we talking about, we were talking about the Moors that were in America pre-colonialism, whatever. So this book talks about that too. It's basically they're breaking down the Melungeons, as the Europeans call them. Okay, so this is what they're saying. They say, are they Portuguese, the descendants of Portuguese fleet, known to have wrecked off the coast of North Carolina in 1665? Survivors could have easily made their way inland and found brides among the Cherokee. Are they part Spanish, descended from the band that deserted the forces of Hernando de Soto as he went west towards the Mississippi River Valley, that far west? Or, you said how's the road? I'm sorry, you interrupted me. Or, let's see, are they British, the remnants of Sir Walter Raleigh's lost colony? Could their ancestry go back to the 10 lost tribes? To the explorations of Prince Madoc? To the mysterious woodland people whose civilization flowered nearby and then vanished? To a small group of Moors who are thought to have sailed from Portugal to South Carolina about the time of the American Revolution? But let me see this part. At least at one property rights, at least one property rights case in Tennessee, in the court, the plaintiff lawyer argued successfully that she was not black, but kin to a lost, hounded people, originally Phoenicians. So this woman who they mistaken as quote-unquote black in the Tennessee court says she is not black, but she is a Phoenician. So what is that telling you? What does that tell you what the Phoenicians look like if she was mistaken as a so-called black woman? But anyway, yeah, it's just little stuff like this in the 80s. Like, all these books like this, the library got rid of. Like, when I go to the library sales, I get all the old history books that I can find that they are taking off. I'm sounding all country today. But yeah, I try to get the old history books that they are taking out of the catalog in the library. And this is stuff that you find in here. She's saying, like, this woman in Tennessee court, who they mistaken as a so-called black woman, saying she is not black, but she's a Phoenician. That's, yeah. Okay, let me see what else I got in here. Oh, and also in this book, I thought was interesting. You know how they have, like, Atlantis and LeMuria as these little fabled continents? Well, in this book, they act like it's a real place. Like, I know some of us, like, aren't into the whole Atlantis, Mu and LeMuria stuff, but I guess back in the 80s, it was taken seriously. Let me see what I can read. So they have a map in here. This is the one I know that goes around on YouTube, but they have the actual map in this history book. Let me see if you guys can see it. I know it's backwards, but you see, like, right there in the middle? Let's see. You see Atlantis, right? Atlantis right there. Name of the book is Mysteries of the Ancient Americas, The New World Before Columbus. It's actually by Reader's Digest, so it's a credible source. You said you believe Atlantis and LeMuria are real places? I mean, it could be. They're saying it's real in here. They're saying, let me see what they say. Okay. They're talking about the Englishman James Churchward. Some of y'all might be familiar with him. In 1926, he published The Lost Continents of Mu, one of the first volumes. And then by his own account, while serving in India in 1868, he virtually stumbled on the truth when an aged priest in a temple helped him decipher some sacred tablets written in Nakals, either in Burma or the motherland. I don't know what the motherland is. I don't know which motherland. Maybe are they talking about Africa? I don't know. Were they talking about Europe for them? But anyways, let's see. He wrote how the Nakals had originally come from the motherland, the land in the center of the Pacific. I guess they're talking about LeMuria as the motherland. Churchward discovered that the writings of all the old civilizations, including 2,500 stone inscriptions, some 120 centuries old, were found in Mexico, confirmed the tale survivors of LeMuria. Okay, so they found some tablets. They found 2,500 tablets in Mexico confirming LeMuria. This is in 1986. This book was published in 1986. What you say, Keith? Windwalker? He said Atlantis was the gatekeepers of the pillars. That sounds so country. Pillar. It was the gatekeeper. Yeah, I mean, you got to ask what happened to these tablets. In 1986, they're saying they found 2,500 tablets. You know, that were 120 centuries old in Mexico. Like, who has all these tablets now? Let's see what else he says. And notably, let's see, Churchward saw remains of Mew on some of the islands in the Pacific, notably Easter Island, Mingaya. I can't pronounce these. Toga, I guess Toga Island, Panape, Ladroni, and Marinia Islands. So he's found evidence on a couple of the islands confirming Amu. Let's see. He also found that symbols and customs are shared in Egypt, Burma, India, Japan, China, South Sea Islands, Central America, South America, and some of North American Indian tribes. Is that the bomb being dropped right there? Okay, so the fabled, quote-unquote, now fabled LeMuria, they've found tons of evidence back in 86. So, y'all people who believe in this, y'all can do some extra research. Okay. Oh, there's more. Y'all want to hear more about LeMuria, or you want me to... You said the emerald tablets. I think they're talking about something different. Yeah. Let's see. If y'all want me to post these, I can post the pages too, so you can see for yourself. I'm not just freestyling. I'm reading off the page. You said keep going, Jovi. It's okay. So the immediate popularity of Churchward's books was not based on the anthropological hypotheses, much more fully than Plato had described Atlantis. So these people they're a little iffy about, I guess they don't really believe what he's saying. But anyways, this is part of the narration. Okay. At the time narrated, the 64 million people were made up of 10 tribes. We've heard of these 10 tribes before. Or people, each distinct from the other, but all under one government. And the people of Mu were highly civilized and enlightened. There was no savagery on the face of the earth, nor had there ever been. The land of Mu was the mother and the center of Earth's civilization, learning, trade, and commerce. All other countries throughout the world were her colonies or colonial empires. Okay, so, I mean, it makes sense, like, based on indigenous populations having similarities. Or, you said download a C scanner to create the... Oh, I have a scanner. I do have a scanner. Sometimes I'm just lazy. I just take a picture with my camera. Especially if I'm at the library, because they charge you like 10 cents a scan. So I just take a picture with my camera. You said the earth is billions of years old? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. And especially like when you start researching and reading things, you see this is moving. You see that's old. Okay. So they said, I guess, Mu disappeared 13,000 years ago. So, I mean, it goes along with what they said in the fables, I guess. So, and then they go on to talk about the Vikings. Let's talk about y'all want to talk about the Vikings? You said when the app creates clear pictures. Yeah, I'll try. I mean, I have a scanner, like a scanner on my printer that I can use for these pages. Okay, so anyways, going to the Vikings. We know a lot of the Viking stories have been kind of altered as of recently to make them fit the European narrative, but a lot of the Vikings, they were dark complected people. And look, right here in this book, they have a little, this guy, okay, it says another poignant reminder of the Viking colonization of an inhospitable Greenland. This carved ivory head depicting a stern-faced Norseman was done by an unknown Inuit artist. Now, you're gonna look at this picture, this is not looking like that TV show, The Vikings. Y'all can see this brother. Look at this guy here. Does he look like the Vikings that they show you on TV? This is the actual carving that the Inuits did, the indigenous people up there in Greenland. So that's a Viking. He said maybe Pangea? I don't know. But if y'all saw the picture, I mean, he looked like somebody's, like a brother I hadn't seen before at the liquor store or something. Yeah, and they said this ivory that they did the carving with is from Africa. How do they get ivory from Africa in Greenland? You said the Viking show. This looked like a regular brother right here. This ain't look like the Viking show. But in the ivory that he's carved on is from Africa. So things like when you start doing research, stuff's not adding up. I'm sorry, I'm trying to plug my phone in because it's about to die. Stuff's not adding up. Give me 1 second. So, if everyone's ignorant and nobody had any type of seafaring skills or any type of communication with everybody else, then how could these, either the Vikings or the Inuits, indigenous American people in Greenland, how did they get ivory from Africa? It says, oh, you said why? How do they know the ivory's from Africa? Let's see. It said it was a profitable export to them during the Black Death in 1347 through 51. So, in the 14th century, before Columbus sailed the ocean blue, they had exports from Africa to Greenland. So they're telling us this tale of Columbus. Then who was Columbus? Why is he significant? If Greenland was already having exports in 1347 through 1351 from Africa. You see, stuff is not adding up. What do you say, Chief? So if he is a depiction of the Vikings, then it's said that they came to America long before the Spaniards. Yeah, the Vikings been coming back and forth. And I remember I had a conversation with a teacher before, and she said she went on vacation to the Netherlands, wherever the Vikings are from. I'm sorry, my brain's not working right now. But she went there and she talked with the native people, who, heard tales about the Vikings and stuff growing up. And they said, the Vikings were Americans. They were indigenous Americans. That's what these people there said. They said the Vikings weren't us. They were indigenous Americans. And y'all want to see this? This guy looked like somebody y'all know. This is a Viking. The Viking that those people over there are saying this man was an indigenous. They're saying the Vikings were indigenous Americans. So, pieces of the puzzles coming together. You said, what'd you say? Where else are they going to get ivory from? Oh, yeah, but the whole point is they're getting ivory from Africa in 1347. When we're taught in school that the Europeans didn't sail the ocean blue to the Americas until, 1492? So we see that's a lie. Okay, would you say one Walker? I can't read it. Anyways. Yeah, so, and okay. Here is from the European Discovery of America, the Northern Voyages, AD 500 through 1600. They say, the gradual snuffing out of this faraway colony, so gallantly planted by Eric the Red, his last descendants, hardly able to find enough food to keep alive, staring their eyes out all through the short, bright summer for the ship for Norway that meant their salvation. So they had I guess they had a colony there for a while, the Vikings in Greenland. And they must have been going other places than America. They had to go to Africa, right? Hey, Quincy. They had to go to Africa then. If they got ivory from Africa dating back to 1347. So, yeah. And see, it's very interesting when you read they've been Xing out certain books out of libraries. And it's for a reason. You say rip shop. There was tobacco residue in the pharaoh's stomach. Yeah, because everybody was traveling. Everybody but the Europeans. Well, certain groups of Europeans, because the Vikings were traveling. Everybody but them was traveling around the globe, I guess. I wouldn't say it was hundreds of people. Probably like 20 people on the boat or something. Yeah, and tobacco is indigenous to America. So there's nowhere else you can get tobacco from. And ivory, you can only get it from Africa or Asia. That's where the elephants are. So, okay. Now, this is another one. One of the rock paintings in Brazil. Okay, so this rock painting, let me see if y'all can see this. This is like a typical rock painting right here. Hope you can see it. I'll try to scan these pictures so you guys can see them. Alright, so that rock painting was recently, this is back in 86, carbon dated to at least 32,000 years ago, making them much older than the famous prehistoric European cave paintings in Lascaux, France, and Altamira, Spain. So yeah, I know. And I remember in school we were taught that the rock, like the oldest cave paintings, were like in Europe or wherever. This one right here is saying that this in Brazil, in America, that's 32,000 years ago. What'd you say, Quincy? Scan the pictures? Yeah, I'll scan them for you. I don't really see any. I mean, they don't really have fingers on the hands because it's I don't know. It's not as sophisticated. So, okay. So they're saying they radiocarbon dated some charcoal as well and other materials at the site that indicated that humans occupied the shelter at least 32,000 years ago. So there was humans here 32,000 years ago. And, okay. And so many of the archaeologists at the time viewed the findings as skeptical, and then further analysis, further analysis and evidence have been produced before this date, and it's accepted as valid. So, and then the book is going down to question the Bering Strait theory. They're saying, because the Bering Strait theory is 11,000 years ago. So they're saying, hey Derek, they're saying that if this is true, then some people must have crossed earlier, across the land bridge, or they came another way, which we know they did, and then people are already here. Linda, you said you think they exported animals from here? Yeah, they probably did. They would. You see, they were exporting ivory and things like that. You said don't forget the Euro authors incorporated African animals in the paint. Yeah, because I guess they shipping the animals around, like Belinda said. You said rewrite history. Yeah. They just won't do it. They lazy. They don't want to do it. Let me see what else I got in here. Oh, here's an interesting thing. They're talking about Hawaii's mysterious cotton. Okay, I don't want to read this all because it's getting tiring. But anyways. So the let's see. So Hawaii is an isolated island. So it says it's 2,400 miles away from San Francisco. Yet when Captain Cook landed in 1778, they found cotton there, and it's a wild hybrid species with one set of chromosomes from the New World and one set of chromosomes from the Old World. So they're questioning, how did it get that way? It's the genetic makeup of Hawaii's cotton, and immediately made botanists wonder whether people had anything to do with the hybridization. I mean, of course, like, what, they think a spaceship just dropped down the cotton or something? I mean, I don't I don't get these people. What do you think the people were traveling? So it says, yeah, so that's proof right there. They're making some theory about birds dropping it down. I don't know. No, they're saying no, that couldn't happen because cotton seeds have some type of toxins in it that the birds don't like. And then it's like maybe a seed floated all the way from America on a 500-mile trip to Hawaii. People who've gone to Hawaii knows how long that flight is over the water. So come on now. And they said that we haven't a clue of how it got there, but it's obviously like the native people there, people from somewhere else brought it over there. You said the American cheetahs. I never heard of American cheetahs. It's one of the animal clans. Oh, okay. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that Hawaii has this mysterious hybrid cotton, and they seem to not know. Instead of giving indigenous people props for accomplishing things that they couldn't do, they rather think birds dropped it out of the sky and seeds floated itself and hybridized themselves together. Okay. They want to believe that. Okay, let's see. Anybody got any questions? You said, did they mention the year and city court of the case in Tennessee of the Phoenician woman? Let me go back and see. Let's see. Hope I didn't take the thing out. No. It just says, let me read it again. It says, at least one property rights. I guess you can look under property rights. At least one property rights case was won in Tennessee court when the plaintiff's lawyer argued successfully that she was not black, but kin with a lost and hounded people, originally Phoenicians. So I guess the key words, they have the quote unquote is lost and hounded people, originally Phoenicians, unquote. So if you search that, maybe look on JSTOR, or they probably got all the court records in Tennessee online now. Cause I know like Virginia, other places have all their stuff online. Would you say, Quincy, is extinct feline species? You said we had our own ship. Yeah, we had our own naval ships. Everybody, I believe everybody did, except that one group of people from England and France or wherever. Those dramatic people. Everybody else was doing their thing. I'm sorry, my charger keeps falling. Yeah. Let me go back. Let's see what else I got in here. Talking about Poverty Point. Okay, Poverty Point culture with that of people about 1,000 miles. Okay, so yeah, this is what I thought was interesting here. It's saying that the Poverty Point culture was going on at the same time of the Olmec culture. So I know a lot of people try to put the Mound Builders and the She people, She Mayan, She Olmec people together, but they're two totally different groups. So these people, they're not the same people. I know some people say, oh, the Mound Builders are the She that migrate up. No, the Mound Builders are a different group. They were already there doing their thing. So the She Olmec can't take credit for what the Mississippian culture did. Let's see what else he's talking about. Yeah, so it was just going into what Poverty Point was for, ceremonial burials and things like that. Let's see. Yep, that's all that one. Let me see what else. There's a whole lot of stuff in this one book. Like, I'm finding a whole bunch of stuff. I just flipped through it before. Okay, and then this Olmec art. Let's see if you can see it. See this little guy? He got all this. You can see all the black paint faded off of him. I mean, look at his features, though. His features maybe look like a typical Mongoloid features, but his skin is black. And we know that we have all of the different phenotypes, so. And then this one here, the black paint is, I don't know if you can see that one. Black paint on skin as well. Black paint. Oh, and then they have the original Bon, what is it? I don't want to say it wrong. Bonapak murals. Did I say it right? Bonapak murals. These ones, I know y'all like to post these ones. The ones in here, these people are chocolate. They're darker than the ones that everyone's posting, talking about. Look at these. Can y'all see it? Look how dark. I'm gonna scan them and put them up so you can see. And then this one here, you see him? Yeah. So we know, just like they did in Kemet, they taking that that bleach and they lightening up the murals. Like, they got them looking a little reddish now, but you see that a dark chocolate color on here. Hey, Pa. What do you say, Jovi? Do you know anything about the shovel teeth thing being an indigenous trait? From my knowledge, yeah, it's an indigenous trait, and a lot of us have the shovel teeth. Like, I have, you can't see it, but I have the shovel teeth. I have the bear's claw. This is supposed to be an indigenous trait. And I have the, I don't want y'all all over my teeth, but you see how my teeth look like it's they look like, I don't know, like it's a space there, but it's not a space, it's not a gap. It's inverted like a V. So it's like a V, the front teeth are like a V shape, which is an indigenous trait that the so-called Native Americans have. But all of us have it too, yeah. Yeah, I always thought my teeth were weird, but see how it goes in like a V, yeah. Bear, yeah, look it up, the bear's claw teeth. Bear's claw. Yeah, it's like a V. You can't see it in pictures, but in person you can see it looks like a weird, yeah. You said bomb pack? Yeah. Well, you see it. I'll let you Turtle West. I'll put it up there, or I'll send you these ones, 'cause these are way darker than the other ones that they have up. The bond pack. Alright, let me see what else. Alright. Alright, here they're talking about Cahokia that I already just mentioned. They're just talking about how they were like a big city. You said you don't have the wing. Well, everybody doesn't have the wing. Like, some people have the shovel teeth, or they just have the bear's claw, or they might not have anything. Just, you know, doesn't mean anything. But yeah, so they were talking about they had craftsmen, they had leather workers, and people who made knives and sculptures in Cahokia. And the elite were troubled from time to time by turmoil and disinfaction. Let's see. And they had little is known about the religious beliefs there, but they know they had many ceremonies tied to observances to the solstices and equinoxes. All right, this is some tongue twisters today. You say everybody's checking their teeth now? Yeah, because I got the weird, y'all see it? I got the weird teeth. So they would have cultural arrangements with the Monk's Mound. Monk's Mound is it Monk's Mound in Louisiana? Right, Pa? Yeah. Okay. Well, you see the connection there. And look, and they have the actual, see, you gotta question why they have all these. And okay, this picture right here is 1927. They have 234 skeletons that were uncovered in an 800-year-old Mississippian ceremony at the Dixon site near Lewistown, Illinois. Okay, so they have these preserved in the Dixon Mounds Museum. We don't know if it's still there or not. But if you look at the actual, oops, I hit my thing. If you look at the actual skeletons of these people, these aren't mongoloids. if those of us who know how to discern the different phenotypes. Peace. Hey, Robert. Would you say Thunderbird? Unexpected Faces in America? I don't know. But anyways, those of us who actually like studied some of the well, you know, it doesn't even take that much study. When you do your research, you'll come across different, like, the different classifications of the phenotypes of the skulls. Those are Mongoloids, Caucasoid, and Negroids. That's usually what the three that they use. So the Mongoloid skull is, their cheekbones is a thick, like a bone that's really, their faces are rounder, but they have a thick, I guess that's what a high cheekbone thing, like thick bones right here. Negroids, they have the round face too. They have the square nasal hole right here. You know, more rounder eyes. So that's exactly what they found here at the Dixon site, the Mississippi. You can look in here. This is not. I don't know if y'all can see it, but I'll scan it and put it up there. If you look at that skeleton right there, that is not a Mongoloid. That's a Negroid. You said, what book am I reading from? Oh, you must have just came in. Mysteries of the Ancient Americas. This is by Reader's Digest, so it's a credible group. You know, it's a group of writers. They have a team of people that come together to make this history book. But you can clearly see right there that was, you see the square, the triangle, nasal passage, the round, the regular cheekbones, circular. Not the thick, wide. The Mongols have a thick, wide bone right here. This one didn't have that. So yeah, I'll scan it so you guys can look at that and analyze for yourself. But it's definitely not a Mongoloid. Yeah. All right. So this is some more stuff, and it's a whole lot of stuff. I didn't want to show the whole thing, but thank you, Belinda, for putting it in the text. But here's some more paintings. This one is Cahokia. I'm terrible with pronouncing these Mexican words. The murals. So they have some more of the murals. I guess these are from the Mayans, that they call quote unquote Mayans. So I'll show you some of them. All right. Y'all see that one? Now, do that look like the people down in Mexico now that call themselves Mexican? No. Here's another one right here. The Mayan, his skin is literally black on here. And then there's one down here too. I don't know if y'all can see that. Alright. But I'll post it back up so you can see it later. Y'all good? Am I boring? Am I boring you guys? If you have any questions? Anybody have questions? Okay, I guess not. I'll just continue showing y'all this book. I don't have nothing else really put down. I know somebody asked earlier for me to touch on why Africans are upset when indigenous, or when so-called Black Americans claim that they're indigenous American. I'll try to touch on that in a minute, but I'm just trying to show y'all the pictures. So here's another one from, let's see. This was found in the rubbles of Mexico City. They believe he's an Aztec. So you see this man, he's sitting like he's in some type of vehicle, and his skin is literally black. You can tell the difference. See, he has black skin. You see that? And he has the gloves on. That's like a tannish color. And he's just sitting there chilling, like he about to go travel somewhere. He's traveling somewhere. Oh, no problem, Kenneth. You're welcome. Hi, Patrick. Let me see. Let me put my bookmark. So, with Mexico City, as some of you guys know, they literally just built on top of what the Aztecs had there. I know some of y'all know I'm not that versed in the history, as many of you are, but you know that the conquistadors came and they just basically, they didn't even knock it down, they just put up a building on top of it. It's just out of disrespect. They just really wanted to bury the heritage so they can control the land and the people. You said there's streams. Nope, I didn't have any. It might be your connection. Are you out? You said, are we the Aztecs? Yeah. Some of us are. Here's another picture right here. This is Aztec religious mural from 16th century codex. So you're going to see the priest in the temple, and they're removing the hearts of the victims. So you'll see the priest. The priest, their skin is black, is drawn as a color black. And then you'll see the other people, their skin is like a reddish or yellow color. These are the people getting sacrificed. So look who is the priest. And then these other people who look like the Mexicans that live there now are being sacrificed by the priest class. You said gangster lean? Oh, I'm chilling like this. My back is... I still have problems from that car accident I was in. So my back is in pain. I'm just trying to chill up on this pillow. What'd you say, Thomas? Aztec descendant from Olmec? Would that be a connection? I say I'm not that familiar with the Aztecs are different from the Olmecs and from the Mayan, based on cultural. But I'm pretty sure some of the people genetically are connected. Yeah, a lot of Olmec left. So the Olmec she people actually left, and they went up to North America from Central America. So they went through, you know, down south. They stopped at the Mississippian culture, the mounds over there. They had wars there, which the history, the oral history goes that the Mound Builders there, they didn't like the She people coming through, so they had a war with them. The Iroquois people joined in with the She people, and they defeated the Mound Builders. So with them defeating the Mound Builders, they took some of the Mound Builder women as wives or whatever, and some of the Iroquois married in with them, and they became the Algonquians. So she turned to Algonquians, and they moved out to the East Coast. So they moved through the South up to the East Coast. But there was already Algonquins there. So the story is, the oral tradition is the Algonquins, Lenape, they lived over there in the East Coast up through Canada. A group of us left and went down to Mexico, and then they came back up. They came back and blended with the people who we left here. And Iroquois, we had some beef with them, and they broke back off, and they had their own Iroquois Confederacy or whatever. So he said Louisiana up to Illinois. Yeah, some Algonquins went up to Illinois, so they went up. They kept going up through Canada, up to Canada. I think those were the Blackfoot. Some other groups. I'm not that familiar with Midwest Indigenous people. You said you just learned you wanted to reclaim, that he wanted to reclaim Jerusalem. Who? Columbus? That's what I heard too. Yeah. So that was Peru. Peru is Jerusalem, which we call Peru now. All right, back to the book. Let's see what else they got in here. They have the actual indigenous people of, what's it called? Quetzal dancers. So they're, these are Mexican people. They don't look like the Mexican people we see coming here. These people are very dark complected people. This is in 86. If y'all can see it. I do apologize for not. You see this guy? It's a indigenous Mexican in 86. You see the other people too. So, yeah, you can see what he looks like. I'll scan these ones once again. But he looks very Negroid to me. Probably a little mixed with the Mongoloid, but he looks primarily Negroid. Let's see what else. Let's see, burial rites in the Andes. I know some of you have seen this, Deshishmu funeral procession of this girl. I think she's a teenager. But this is her. She has these little, look at her hair. She has these little brandy braids. That's what we used to call it, micro braids in her hair. You got little micro braids. Y'all can see that. And I mean, her style is still intact. It's like thousands of years, 500 years later. That's when your hair is laid. It's still fresh 500 years later. Alright, okay, I'm just counting now. And let's see what else we got in here. Some of the stuff I'm just going to skip over. This is the basic stuff that y'all have already seen. I'm trying to show y'all stuff that you haven't seen. Let's see. This one's talking about the airwalks coming from South America. You know, the airwalks of the West Indies. They originated in South America. They brought some of the stuff with them. They have some of the tropical flora of South America they took to the islands. Alright, here's some more Mexican people. Look at this guy. Indigenous Mexicans. You can't even see this guy, but you see them feet. His feet are dark. Dark skinned person. Use the name of the book again. This is Mysteries of the Ancient Americas. This is published by Reader's Digest in 1986. It said very deep. What'd you say, Windwalker? Ancient war, thousands of years old. Yeah, it's like so much stuff. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Thomas. Airwalks are in the Caribbean. They originated in South America. And they took different flora with them to the islands that are indigenous to the actual mainland. Okay. Okay, anybody got any questions? I'm just going and going and going. There's 22 of y'all on here. Somebody gotta have a question. Somebody gotta have a question. Okay. So I'm just gonna post those pictures later. You said the Mexican governor of California was a mixed black person not long ago. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I got all these. I got stacks and stacks. There's another book too. Oh, here's that book from the Buffalo Soldier post that I did. You can see. I don't see what this is the author. It's backwards, so you can't even read it. It says Robert Ewell Green, if you guys want to buy. I want to go buy it. It's a Hawaiian monarch was black. Yeah, the royal class was in Hawaii. They were so-called black people. Alright. You said, what about the Washita Moors? Where were they located? They're descendants of the Mound Builders. Washita are descendants of the Mound Builders that, like I said, had to battle with the She Olmecs. And the She won. And that's how their empire, I mean, they still survived, but the empire crumbled. The dominance that they had throughout the North America crumbled because the She Olmecs who turned into the Algonquians. You said, where were they located? Mound Builders, they were like Louisiana, like certain parts down the south, and they went all the way up to Illinois and up there. Anybody else got any questions? I'm gonna sign off. Y'all don't got any questions? You said that's your bloodline. Yeah, that they dominated the whole most of what we called United States at one time. Alright, this other book I got, it's too much stuff in this to show y'all. But it's showing the Khmers of Cambodia, where Buddha went to Cambodia. Buddha from India. But you all know what the Khmers look like. They have thick lips and woolly hair, curly woolly hair. There's one lady, she got cornrows. This is Cambodia. You see her cornrows? Her features aren't that, they're more keen, but you can see she had cornrows and her shape, her body shape. Okay. Most of us in the Southeast are part of the Americas are. You said most of the people from the Southeast were Mound Builders. Well, like I said, some people are from Iroquois and the Algonquian people as well. The She Algonquian Lenape people. When researching ancestry, how can you past the early 1800s? How can you get past the early 1800s? The best way to do that, you have to follow because how the Europeans track ancestry, it goes through the father. So it will be probably best to go through your maternal line, the fraternal line through your mother's line. So that's how you'll easily start to find who's the head of the household, who's in the household. So you'll see like your great-great-grandmother and her children and their children, and you can find them down that way. At a certain point in the 1800s, the ancestor might be enslaved or in servitude at that time. You would have to try to look for the master or whoever had their contract, and you can usually find that through the court system, or if that master, I don't like calling them masters, whatever that person is, the controller, if they had, some people have meticulous records of, for tax purposes. So you can look on the tax records as well. For one of my ancestors, he was Pamunkey, a mixed Pamunkey, but he actually had owned two people, so I could find his tax records from Indian town of the two quote-unquote Negroes that he had contracts on. So on the tax records, they're down as property. But when I looked at the census records, he has them written down as employees, and they actually lived in the house with them. So there's different ways to find those records, and he has the names of them. Like one of them, this ancestor's name, John Anderson. You guys can look this. The information for his tax records is actually on freeafricanamericans.org. O-R-G. So he lived in I think his mother was born in Indian Town, the Pamunkey Reservation, and his father is John Anderson as well, but John Anderson from the House of Andersons, Caucasian or Moorish line or whatever they are, from Scotland. So his records, or his tax records, up there, and he actually, one of his workers that he had a contract on is named Robert, and Robert, he eventually set Robert free within a couple of years, and Robert took on his last name as Anderson. So then Robert Anderson is in the tax records as owning Negroes himself and being taxed for Negroes. And I don't know what ancestry Robert Anderson is. I don't know if he was a Pamunkey as well, if he was another indigenous person, or he was African, or he was a mulatto. We don't know, but the records show that my ancestor freed this man, and so this man was able to get property from my ancestor and also get workers under contract, or slaves as some call them. He was able to get slaves, and then eventually he freed his slaves. You can see on the tax records, and his slaves took on the Anderson last name, and they did the same thing until, I guess, slavery was abolished. So some of the people, what we did, we were trying to protect our own people. They were like friends, family, employees, or whatever. They weren't like it wasn't like the Roots movie, like somebody was a slave getting beat up. I don't think so. I don't think he would beat and humiliate this man and then give this man his last name, a piece of his land, and give him his freedom, and give him a horse so he can start his farm. So, I mean, when you look at the actual records, you see like the true little stories, throughout, that we were actually, like, the free people were actually trying to help people if they owned slaves. I can't say all of them. I know from my ancestors' records they did. You said your line goes back to Scotland and England? Yeah, just what I said, the Anderson line. The ancestor I just mentioned, John Anderson, his father, I believe his name was John Anderson as well. His line of the Anderson clan goes back to Scotland. And then from there it goes back to Scandinavia and actually Egypt. So actually, because Scotland is named after Akhenaten's daughter. So I actually have Egyptian ancestry from the European line. And there also the Anderson line is a Moorish line as well. So they mix with Moorish nobility over there. Oh, no problem. You said, what'd you say, Janice? Trying to scroll up. Yeah, the answer, like a lot of them, they're not written down in the records as a slave. They're written down as like a servant. It actually says servant on there, or it will say employee or laborer. I see laborer a lot with ancestors. Even like the ancestors, like John Anderson's son, he's down. He had a farm. He had workers. He put down his employees, and then he also was a laborer as well. So he had his farm and he had people working on his farm, but he also did work for other people too, because he was a brick mason. So he was a mason. He actually contracted himself out to do work while he was earning income on his farm where other people were working it. And then sometimes he would work in the fields with these servants or people. So basically people are under contracts too. You're either a slave, chattel slave, which depending on your master, you could get out of that, or you had a contract, like you were indentured. Back in those times, a lot of like the poor whites, if you want to call them that, poor European children, pale children, and the free people of color children, what they would do, because those kids were taxed, the male kids were taxed. So the parents couldn't afford to pay the tax. So what they would do is they would sign the children up for an indenture. Basically, to learn a trade, to start a business or get a job. And we have turned into the college loan system, where you're racking up debt to learn a trade so you can eventually have a job or start your own business. So that's what they did. Like little children, I guess, when they're old enough to do any type of skilled work, maybe like 7 years old, they will go to the court because they couldn't pay the tax for the children, and the children have to sign up. Sometimes they can pick, sometimes the court will pick someone for them to apprentice under, and they will be under indentured servitude until they were 18, 19, 21 years old. Sometimes the kids, like a lot of cases for like the Irish immigrant kids, they were not get out the contract. So, and some of the free people of color kids, and they'll end up becoming slaves because the master wouldn't honor the contract. He says, you seen them as yeah, they'll be written down as servants. So some of the people were actually chattel, and then some of the people were free, but they had to sign indentures because they were poor people to pay the taxes. That's how they made money. But Linda, you said some of yours were labeled as laborers, and their father owned the farm. Yeah, like the kids, the children, like I said, for instance, John Anderson and his son Samuel Anderson, until Samuel was a certain age, I forget what age he was written down as child. He was down as a child, and then he was also down as a laborer. So he had to work the fields with the slaves. So until he was able to get his own piece of the land and get his own laborers. And well, Samuel went on to do a lot of different stuff. He actually built a school. Samuel actually built one of the first colored schools in Virginia with the help of Booker T. Washington and I forget this man's name, but he's actually was involved with Sears Howard. They had a program where they would go around, and Booker T. Washington was trying to, during Reconstruction, he was trying to get schools built so for the people of color, for the children to learn. Yeah, that's an interesting fact. And the school is not still there, but it's I think they're going to rebuild it. It's called the Rucker School. So that's my ancestors, and his daughter, Samuel Anderson's daughter, Betty Rucker, was actually a teacher at the school, and she was a midwife too. So, you said they also labeled black as mulatto. Yeah, some of them were labeled that because they were Indians, and they needed to be taxed. Like in the case of John Anderson, my ancestor, he was. His mother was born in Indian Town, the Pamunkey Reservation. So in order for you to own property or own different things, you can own a horse and still live in Indian Town. You can own a Negro, because some people on the reservation did own Negroes, like one or two. It wasn't like the 5 civilized tribes. But in order for you to own land, you had to leave the reservation, and you had to become a free person of color. You couldn't be Indian anymore. And that, it was Virginia. That's part of the paper genocide, because in order to prosper and to take care of your family and, to do good, instead of living on the reservation was like a big project or a third world country, you had to leave, and you had to lose your identity. You had to go become Christian and join the church and things like that. So, yeah, Virginia. This is way before Walter Plecker, so they've been doing it. He just kind of like just put the gavel down and actually like physically changed the documents. But people had to make a choice to leave, and he married another woman. The woman he married, Sally Winston, she's from the Wynn family of Mattaponi, so she's from another reservation. She actually had to leave the reservation because I think she inherited some land. Her mother, I believe, had already left and had land, and she inherited land from her mother, and she wanted to marry someone who was not European, was not pale. At that time, both of the reservations had bleaching. They had a bleaching policy that they didn't want people to marry anybody that's labeled free, people of color, anybody of a darker hue. They only wanted people to marry Caucasian people, and even those who lived on the reservation, they really didn't want the European men living there. They only allowed the European women to live on the reservation, and those women became Indians. So they married the Indian man, and they became Indians, and then their kids became Indians. But someone who's actually full blood that left, they became Negroes. You said Powhatan Princess? Yeah, those are two Powhatan reservations, the Pamunkey and the Mattaponi. And another interesting fact was that they used, I know a lot of your conscious people disrespect Christianity. I'm not personally Christian, but they used Christianity to protect them and to prosper. And like the people who left the reservations, they established these churches. And that was the only place where they can be recognized as Indians. And inside the church, they had these secret, I guess, not powwows, I wouldn't say powwow, but they had these secret, they were able to speak their language there. They wanted to, because it was all, free people of color that went to most of the churches. And they were able to, keep some of the traditions alive under the guise of Christianity. So in Virginia, they still have it now. It's called Mattaponi Baptist Association. This was formed by the Mattaponi tribe, the people who left. So it's like different groups of Baptist churches that are connected of those people who are the descendants of the people who left the reservation. And they named the churches Mattaponi. Like one of our churches is named. It's named Mount Tabor, but it's on Mattaponi Trail, and it's part of the Mattaponi Baptist Association. And another one of my family churches is called Mangohick Baptist Church, which is actually a national landmark now, because it was made, I believe it's 1732. You can look all this stuff up. 1732, Mangohick Baptist Church. And Mangohick in the Powhatan Pamunkey language means, loosely, it means big dummy. Great, naive person. It seems like they're making a joke out of the church. So I don't know. Like, who names your church like great, naive, or big dummy? Hey, Kari. Yeah, so... so they used those churches, like I said, they used the churches, and also those people, a lot of the Underground Railroad came through these same churches that were established by indigenous people. And then later on, the AME church came about, but before that, we had the different associations of the indigenous groups that people left the reservation started. Let's see. You said blacks who were Christians weren't slaves in the beginning. Yeah, a lot of those people, they maintained their freedom, or they gained their freedom through Christianity during the colonial times. There was a lot of, you can still read the documents, court cases. I'm sorry, I've been talking I'm not used to talking this long. Court cases of people who converted to Christianity, and at that time you couldn't enslave Christians, and then they changed it to you couldn't enslave European Christians, and then it was like you couldn't enslave white Christians because there was some more European Moors who were enslaved in Virginia at that time. Those were actually the first Negroes who were enslaved here. It wasn't people from directly from Africa. What else? I was talking about Underground Railroad. Well, I was talking about the churches. Yeah. And also another tip, if you're still looking for genealogy, a lot of these churches, they have the records of your families. If your families were free, even enslaved people went to these churches. So I know for this Mango Hick Church, they had, it started off as, this was in 1732. It actually started off as a multiracial church. It was an integrated church. So I know we hear all this stuff like, oh, everybody was separate and white people hate black people and black people hate white people, whatever. This church, the people came together. Some of the people got married. In Virginia, maybe it's different in Virginia. I know Louisiana had some similar things, but this church was multiracial church, and it had both free people of color and free European people, and they also have enslaved European people and enslaved people of color who actually attended the church together, side by side. And then I think after the Revolutionary War, some things happened, and the church was abandoned for a few years. You can look all this stuff up. It's Mango Hick Baptist Church in Virginia. So it was abandoned for a few years, and then free people of color took it over. So my family was a big part of taking over, rebuilding that church. And actually Samuel Anderson and his wife Elizabeth were the first people of color couple to get married in the church. I don't know how they did before. It was integrated church, but I guess free people of color didn't get married in there. But so Samuel and Elizabeth were the first to get married in the church. Anybody have any questions? I might post pictures. I don't want people to take their pictures, but I might post pictures of Samuel and Elizabeth. I don't think I have. Well, I have them on my phone, so I can't show you because I'm on my phone. Anybody have any questions? No questions? Yeah, so the churches, like I was saying about the records, the churches have, they have all the record. They have the birth records, they have the wedding, the marriage records, they have the death records, and christening records. So yeah, so if you really want to dig a little deeper, you could try to find what your family church was and see if they had those records. So that's for free or enslaved people of color. Corey, you said, what were the major tribes in Georgia? I'm not that familiar with Georgia because my family, like all my family, literally are from Virginia on both sides. So I don't really have anybody that's not from Virginia, and most of them are have some type of connection with the Powhatan Nation. Or I think on my father's side, they have a connection with the Nottoway, which is the group that the Powhatan called Nottoway. Their name was, I can't pronounce it, Chiacanoa, something like that. But we called them Nottoway. So Georgia, I know one of the dominant tribes was Cherokee, the Kitawa in Georgia, and also they had Yamasee there, I believe. I'm not sure what the other groups. I believe there were some Iroquois groups down there too. Tuscaroras, I think during colonization, they came all the way down from Virginia to North Carolina and down probably to Georgia as well. Because Georgia started off as a prison colony, like for the English. They said Muskogee. Yeah, Muskogee. I guess Cherokees counts as Kitawa. Some Cherokee, some Kitawa or Muskogee, and the Yamasee or Muskogee speakers, and yeah, Cherokee are not. No, Cherokee, they migrated around. They're not. It's Cherokee is a little tricky because they're blended with other groups, and then also a lot of their stuff is not properly documented by the Europeans. So I believe Norris, you said something about it. If you're still on here, said something about the Cherokee being the name being just like a placeholder by the Europeans for random Indian tribe. So Muskogee is a loose word to describe the swamp people. Yeah, isn't that what Muskogee means? First Cherokee map showed more than 6 towns. Yeah, I believe they had towns like throughout the east and the south. From what I know, I'm not a big Cherokee, Kitawa, or Anu. I can't even pronounce it. Anuwanyi. Yeah, I'm not a big historian of their culture. You got a question, Quincy? Yeah, so what was I talking about? I was talking about the church. Oh, the churches also have the cemeteries too, with your ancestors are buried in the churches, at the churches. So you might be able to walk. I went to a funeral a couple of weeks ago from one of my he's a now ancestor. I actually walked through the cemetery with my son, and my son just kind of randomly just discovered like some of these ancestors that I was looking for. So they have their name, they have their birthday, their death day, so you can use that information also to for your genealogy. He said separate towns facing Lake Erie. Oh, Ayata, or the Iroquois? With the Iroquois? I don't know. Yeah, we know that some of the towns, we took over the towns and turned those into plantations as well. Once they actually, so that's something that kind of annoys me with the archaeologists in America, is that they do not do enough digging for indigenous heritage. You gotta ask, you gotta question. I remember I questioned a professor before, they didn't have an answer. Why is there not enough funding? Why is there any funding or any, much at all going towards the history of the indigenous or native people of America? Why aren't they making these big digs? And you got to question. You saw what they found in the mound. Those weren't mongoloid skeletons there. I'm just saying. So Georgia's predominantly Creek or Muskogee people. Creek is just a European name for the Yamasee, right? Yeah, they're Muskogee. You said there isn't enough funding towards science in general. Yeah, but especially, well, the thing is, they have. I used to be, when I worked at this grocery store a long time ago. I was way younger. I wanted to be an archaeologist, but I used to talk to this archaeologist just that used to come in there. He worked. I think I mentioned him before. He worked a long time in Jamestown doing the excavation there, and he also was, he worked for Mary Washington. He was actually, so he would get his funding through he got his funding through Mary Washington to do the Jamestown project, and he was saying that they just don't want to give money towards that. So at a certain point he had to stop what he was doing. But he had friends who wanted to do digs in Egypt and all these other places, especially Egypt. They would give them a lot of funding to fly to Egypt and to go, So you're paying extra. I'm pretty sure it costs way more to go to Egypt with a team than to go to Georgia or Louisiana, somewhere like that. Let's see. You said the Mongoloid is Alaskan, Hawaiian. Native American. What happened in Canada? Or are they under the presumed identity? Mongoloid, definitely not Hawaiian. We already established the Hawaiians were a Melungeon or Indigenous American people. They were not, the Hawaiians were not Mongoloid until recently. Until the Europeans brought the Chinese and the Japanese coolies to work the fields in Hawaii. So those people were servant descendants. The original Hawaiians, if you look at that picture of Captain Cook in 70s, 60s, 67, when they killed Captain Cook, and you see them brothers with afros, that's what the Hawaiians look like. Those people who look Chinese and Asian, those are descendants of coolies who came over. It was a good movie on Netflix that I saw about this girl who was a Japanese girl who got married to one of the coolies who was working in the fields in Hawaii. And she had all these big dreams about coming to Hawaii and starting a new life, and she just ended up working the fields and being miserable. But I'm pretty sure that her descendants, it was based on a true story, I'm pretty sure her descendants are still in Hawaii, saying they're Hawaiians. They're not the original Hawaiians. You saying that they assumed identity? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This Japanese girl assumed the identity of the Hawaiians. You saw the movie, Jovi? Wasn't that good? It was so sad because she had such high hopes and she came from a good family and everything, and she got there working. Her friend, I don't want to give away the story, but her friend went through some stuff. Yeah, it was a good movie. Did you say, Patrick? All war and genocides about land. All the African talk is new and forced on the people. Yeah, a lot of stuff is new. Forced on people in the 70s. They know that they utilized the indigenous population. They did not kill all. Who in the world but white Jesus, black Jesus can kill off 100 million people within a couple of 100 years? It wasn't even enough of them over here. They're talking about they have their records of at the end of emancipation of 4 million enslaved people of color, but it wasn't near European Caucasian people here. So who are the people who killed off 100 million people? You know? You said, what's the name? I can't remember. Jovi, do you remember the name of the movie with the girl? I can't. It was a really good movie. I'll try to post it if I find it, or I'll inbox you, Ty. You said, what happened to the Mongoloids in Canada? They still in Canada. There's some Mongoloids. If you look at the quote-unquote First Nations, they are a mixed Mongoloid and Caucasian. So they mix with indigenous people, with the Mongoloids, and with the new French. The French, when they came, they did, France actually, who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody about this. France actually had a stipend for all the men who would come to America and marry the indigenous, as many as they wanted. You know, they practiced polygamy with some of the indigenous women just so they could bleach the bloodlines. So what they did was they paid them $100 for every indigenous woman they married and impregnated. So that's how they look like. You see, if y'all look up First Nations, Canada, you see what they look like. They don't look like indigenous people. Okay, I can't read this now. You gonna Google it? Okay. You say, have I heard of Taino and Arawak being language groups? The actual names of those people, perhaps they're extensions of Olmec. I was talking earlier, the Arawaks are from, I believe they're from the Amazon. They're from South America originally. I'm not sure about language groups. Maybe Quincy knows, if he's still on here, about the language groups. But the Arawak and the Taino, they were a part of, I think the Tainos were a part of the Arawak, but they kind of broke off and did their own thing. But there's two different groups. You said good portion migrated to California. I don't know about the Arawak. I know some Arawak migrated to Florida, from what I believe. You said Tennessee? I don't know if they got that far. What did you say? What country say? France was forced to ally with people because they had shortage of people themselves, just to counter it. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Quincy. They have a shortage of people, so how are they going around killing 100 million people? I mean, the story is fantastical enough with the slavery part. That's why you can't leave out what we did to each other. You can't leave out what the indigenous people did to other indigenous people to help these other people, foreign people, succeed at what they're doing. And I doubt that they could kill 100 million people either. So those people were enslaved and they were sent away or sent to Caribbean or reclassified or here. So okay, you're talking to Patrick. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not that sure. I'm not that versed in the Arawak, but I know that they migrated, and especially when the Europeans came, a lot of the Arawak left. I believe the Taino wanted to stay and fight, but the Arawak, they went to the mainland. How did Germanic people, like I was saying, the Germanic people whooped the world up by using us against us. They came as friends with smiles and gifts and religion. And then, that's why they sent the missionary. If you look at the history, they sent the missionaries out first. Those were the first people coming out. They were the first people that came out with explorers to talk with the native people when they tried to convert, especially with the Algonquian people. They tried to convert a lot of people first. Before they start actually colonizing, and they came as friends and saying, we're going to share the land with you, we're going to share our religion with you, and we're going to live in harmony. That's what they said. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they lied to the missionary priests too. I don't know if the missionary priests had, ill intention. Maybe they really wanted to spread their religion, which they thought was positive. But yeah, they used their friendship and their religion and their, I guess, because see, it's different cultures too. Their culture is from a colder climate, a dog-eat-dog world type of climate that you had to fight to the top. And our heritage here and in Africa and different places, we share with the family. We were family. If somebody had something, everybody had it. We shot a deer, everybody ate. We shot, I don't know what they got in Africa. Shot a tiger, everybody ate tiger. It wasn't like, oh, this is just mine, this is just for me. Maybe my husband, wife, or whoever, children can eat it, but nobody else can. No, it was for the whole tribe. So they used, we underestimated people, and you can't blame people for taking advantage, because it's very deep, the psychology to it, because in their mind, the European mind, they doing what they gotta do. You know how people in the streets like, I'm doing what I gotta do to survive. They're doing what they gotta do to survive, and people here thinking, oh, this is my brother, this is my friend, we're sharing the land, we're sharing the food. They can marry my sister or whoever, and we cool. But that's not how they thought over there. They thought, how can we strategize? How can we make it so that we are secure and we do not have to be in survival mode? We're going to use other people to do our work for us. That's the psychology behind that. You said Louisiana free.